It is vlog 329. I am leaving town for the majority of this week, so I have to get a vlog shot today, and it starts right now. Vlog 329 would come your way in a week where I would not be in Reno for most of it. I'd always wanted to play the golf course Paiute outside of Vegas, and as a very kind birthday gift to me, Anna took me to do just that. And after playing 18 holes on the Sun course, there's actually 3 courses there, we both agreed it was the best golf that we've ever played. Now, it is not cheap, but you have the desert scenery with the Joshua trees that I've always loved. And it's always nice to play a golf course that is not surrounded by houses, if you ask me. So we will definitely be back there to play the other 2 courses at Paiute sometime in the near future. My goal was to break 90. I didn't do it. 2 water hazards and just too many putts that I should have made not going in resulted in the 96. And it was then on to Los Angeles, where we were there for a gathering of Anna's family. But amazingly, despite the fact the trip was already scheduled on these dates, the Golden Knights just happened to be there playing the Ducks. So you better believe we were going to be going to that too. If you want to watch a special edition vlog about that trip, you can click the link in the description below. We have to start off with a hand that took place a few days before the session we are about to cover, featuring a scenario that you will not find yourself in often in No Limit Hold'em. The game had been changed from a 5-10 to a 3-5 because, as I often say that it was fizzling out later in the afternoon, and shockingly they wanted to keep it alive. And of course, there were a bunch of guys that wanted to play 3-5 but not 5-10. So they converted it, and a random guy who I've never seen in the 5-10 game sits down in this game and raises to $15 under the gun +1. And I am in the hijack with 2 kings. I put in a 3-bet to 65 in this spot, and it folds back around to him, and he makes the call. So with 135 in, the board rolls off King 8-3 with 2 hearts, giving me top set. He checks, and not wanting to blow my action out of the water, and also not wanting to give free draws, I bet 70. Figure there's going to be a decent amount of his range that we'll consider calling for that amount. Though I do know that my king is going to kill my action against a lot of those hands. He thinks about it for a minute and makes the call. So with 275 in, the turn is very interesting. It is the ace of hearts. So now I have a set of kings and the nut flush draw. That is something that you cannot say very often in this game. He checks. So what's the play here? The obvious draws come in. But I just think my hand is just too strong to just check back in a spot like this. I bet 125. He thinks about it for a full minute, which is a long time in this game, before ultimately jamming all in for about $500 more. And I don't suppose anyone would argue that I can fold here, especially given the fact that he raised under the gun 1 and called a re-raise pre-flop. Now, I know there's a lot of guys out there just clicking buttons, but that should be a spot where he's not going to have a ton of suited hands. And we know he doesn't have the nut flush draw in this spot. So I make the call. And with $1,550 in the pot, he shows 10-7 of hearts. I guess sometimes I forget how people at the lower levels play now that I've been in this game for so long. But obviously I'm not drawing dead. I can still hit any board pair or any other heart to win this pot, but we get a complete brick on the river, and I would lose in a spot where it just didn't feel like I was supposed to lose. But that's sometimes how it goes. Anyway, the current session you're about to see would take place at Peppermill, Reno. A place where the slot machines aren't exactly getting any smaller. And a place where Yukon Brad Booth finally made his return. If you count his face from 20 years ago being used as a Poker Go screensaver of return, that is. I don't feel optimistic that my buddy and the others that he owes money to here will ever get paid back. That's for damn sure. But you do got to give the guy credit for one hell of a play against Phil Ivey all those years ago that Poker Go still capitalizes on. On this session, I would begin tracking it on the left pocket poker bankroll manager and would start rolling video on table 1. The first pot I would play was limped, because limpin' is pimpin'. I have king 8 of clubs in the big blind and simply check my option. So with 40 in, the flop is queen 10 deuce with 2 clubs, giving me the second nut flush draw, and I go ahead and bet it, tossing in a green chip. Under the gun is my only caller. So with 90 in the pot, the turn pairs the deuce. Not an ideal barrel card, but it's certainly better than a non-club ace or 9, as he's going to have some straight draws in this spot. I fire 60 as a second barrel, and he doesn't take too long and tosses his cards into the muck, and that is how we get on the scoreboard. We get a raise to 35 on the button, and the small blind folds. The problem is, this is not the guy I would prefer to have a big hand against. This is actually a guy I prefer to bluff. Anyway, I pick up pocket kings, and I raise to 115 here. And sure enough, he makes the call. So with 235 in the pot, the flop is king 8-4 with 2 hearts. Where have we seen this before? I suppose you could argue that I should do something different than what I did the last time, given the result. But I just don't think the situation warrants that. I think he's going to have jacks, 10s, or a lot in this spot, and I want to get him to call with those hands. So in order to try to accomplish that goal, I need to bet less than half the pot. I just make it 100. And he does give this some thought for about 10 seconds, but ultimately mucks his cards. I would then notice that former NBA player Reggie Bullock bought his own island. I was unaware of this. About $10 million off the coast of Belize. And he has indeed called it Bullock Island. I think that should give Sandra the right to just stop in anytime she wants. You know, it only seems right. And I can't imagine he would hate that idea. The next 4 times I would see flops over the course of the next hour and a half, I'd lose all 4 of those hands, and about $150 of the money I was up to this point. Then a very loose player sits down in the game. Legendarily loose, even. A guy that I have not played with in years. And a guy that I had to hope I would get in some hands with on this day. Folds to me on the button with king 8 of clubs. Didn't I already play this hand? And since I am on the button, and it's an open raise, this certainly falls into the range of hands that should be happening with. I make 30. And that player in the big blind gives me action. The flop is 10 high with 2 spades, and no one bets. Turn is the king of diamonds. And now he bets out for $50. I am simply never folding in this spot, so I make the call. And with 165 in, the river is the 7 of diamonds. And now he leads out for 55 into 165. And for that price, against this guy, I'm never folding top pair. So the pot is $275, and he shows 3 6 of diamonds for the runner flush. It was interesting. This guy, he's one of these guys you always hope will show up in the game. In this case, he would go on to run like absolute God on this day. He made quads and a straight flush, collected over $700 in bonus tax refund money alone, and didn't seem to lose any hands that he played either, booking a win and hitting and running within a couple hours. It was insane. That's not really relevant to my session, but I'm still kind of on tilt about it, so I'm pointing it out. It's also a trend like we just saw in that last hand, and I'm sure some of you guys are going to say that I'm out of my mind, but I'm seeing a lot of guys who have just been kind of losing players over many years, in recent years, shift to value betting very small amounts on the river with their big hands, almost as if they're desperate to get paid off with them. I don't know if that's something you guys have noticed or not, but I've seen it on a number of occasions. I would then 3-bet ace-king to 150 in the big blind. And the second loosest player in this game defends his initial open in the cutoff. With 305 in the pot, the flop is deuce 3-4 rainbow, and it's on me. I hate to just give up here, allowing him to bet me off the same hand or even the best hand. So I bet. I fire 200. And he absolutely snap calls. A revolting development. Turns a 7, and he has $400 left in his stack. I suppose you could argue that I could go for it all here with the second barrel, but this is not the player to do it against, I don't believe. I check. He jams all in, and I throw my cards away, being left to ponder if I made the right decision by even trying that bet on the flop. I would lose the next 2 hands I'd play as well, and went from having a good day to being stuck on this day. But that would take us to this hand. We would get 2 limps. The small blind would complete, and I would pick up pocket deuces in the big blind and check my option. Not too many vlogs where I've checked my option in the big blind twice, by the way, but here we are. With 40 in, I would flop bottom set on jack deuce 3 2 clubs and go for the check raise, and the button bets out for a grand total of $10. Small blind folds, and I check raise to 45, and after a little bit of thought, button calls. So with 130 in, the turn is the 3 hearts filling me up. I bet out for $80 here, and he doesn't take too long and decides that he's seeing the river. Sometimes in this spot you don't want to bet too big, because even when your opponents are drawing dead, you still want to make them pay to draw. Spoiler alert, he was drawing dead. With 290 in, the river is the 9 of clubs. He has to have a decent amount of flush draws here. Second spoiler alert, he did have a flush draw here. I think this is the wrong opponent to go for the check raise against. I think if I do that, I'm going to make less money than if I just bet it big myself. I think he'll certainly bet a flush if I check to him, but he's not going to call a big raise. So with that in mind, I bet out for almost full pot. I may get 250. And he folds in 1/2 of a second, which shocked me. He later said that he had an open-ended straight draw and a flush draw, but it was obviously not the flush draw that I wanted him to have. I think 4-5 of hearts was certainly the hand there. So, I made a few big hands on this day, but not against the guys who I want to be up against, and certainly not against the hands I want to be playing against. It was clear it wasn't going to be a great day no matter what happened, but I still figured I would end up booking a small win on this day. But after I picked up ace 4 of hearts on my way out the door, I would flop the nut flush draw, and I would barrel flop, and barrel turn, and I got called by a pair of 3s and a straight draw, and sure enough, that straight came in with no further hearts showing up, and just like that, I had turned a win into a small loss. All right, so I'm absolutely steaming right now. Felt like a day where things were going to go my way. Had 2 big hands, both against the same guy. Nice guy, retired doctor. Nice guy to actually have a big hand when he has a big hand. Unfortunately, when I had the set of king, he said he just had ace queen for nothing. And then when I had the full house, he said he missed a flush and a straight draw. Every other time, it seemed like I tried any sort of a move, I was up against exactly what I didn't want to be up against. Ultimately booking a loss of $250. And I'm done talking. All right, so it really was amazing. The trip down to LA was booked to spend time with Anna's family. And by the way, there was a lot of them to meet, and that was a process in and of itself, but a fun one. I just couldn't believe how lucky I got in terms of what else was going on during the couple days we were going to be down there. The Golden Knights were playing the Ducks, which I'd always wanted to see a Golden Knights game there in Anaheim. So I got a chance to do that, even though they managed to blow a 2-0 lead and lose in overtime. And then I was even more stunned to find out that MGK was playing at the Forum on the Thursday before. Now, I know some will hate on me for going to that concert. I'm not a fan of him, the rapper. I'm a pop punk guy myself, but the part of the story that was funny was that this was the Lost Americana tour, and that signage that you see right here actually started flashing. Unfortunately, I didn't record video of it when it happened. I tried to grab my phone, and by the time I was rolling, it had stopped happening. But there was like a 10-second period where that sign was flashing just the 3 letters OMC. I am not making that up. As if the world needs to tell me anymore that I'm becoming an OMC. It's literally flashing the 3 letters at me at a concert. Though no OMC would go to that concert. I will say that about myself. By the way, the Forum, which is the home of the Showtime Lakers, it still sits there next to SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. I'd never been there. I've been to one game at Staples Center, but I'd never been to the old Forum. And it's probably the worst venue I've ever seen anything at in terms of comfortability. I couldn't get over it, really. I've been to a lot of stadiums, baseball, football, basketball across the country, and I've never been to one that has less leg room than the Forum. And I know it's been there for a minute. It's like 60 years old, but still, if you're over 5'9", I would think, you're going to be extremely cramped going to a show there. Am I the only one that's ever experienced this? I can't be. So I will not go back. I just hope I can go back to the venue known as Peppermill within the coming days to try to make some money. I did not play a single session in the days after the vlog that you watched with the LA trip. And then the entire week of Thanksgiving, I was ridiculously sick all week. So just kind of coming out of that now. A lot of work to do. If you're new to this channel, hit those like and subscribe buttons. I genuinely appreciate that. And consider checking us out on Poker Bros, the High Society Club. You can get all the information for that in the description below. We'll see you back here next time.
Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shit tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last.